Welcome back to Let's Play Quantum Break. I'm BurningDogFace, and we're moving through Monarch's R&D department. There's a Chronon source in the area. There's a laptop I can scan through that wall. Some kind of poster in the next room. And this guy dropped his TPS reports. Oh, also, this random computer has an email explicitly lining out that Beth Wilder and Fiona Miller are traitors. And let's take a look at something here. Yeah, this is not Fiona's desk or anything. And this computer has an email lining out that, sort of reading those Postit Notes. Wait a minute. Huh. I can actually read on the screen from Dr. Sophia Amaral to... I can't read that because it's white text and yellow background. Because the screen texture keeps going fuzzy. I guess they all say that. Interesting that actually put words on it. Right, that other computer explicitly lies out that Martin Hatch is not only a traitor, but he's planning to kill Sophia Amaral, sentence Paul Serene to a slow death, and take over the company. I'm not sure why, since the end of time is coming, and it won't really matter once the bubble hits. Unless he was explicitly told he doesn't get to come along in the lifeboat, which would have been stupid of Serene. What's this one say? Anything in the re section? No. From Martin Hatch to Monarch Security Team leads, instructions for tonight. People! It appears we have been overtaken by events and we've had to adjust our plans accordingly. As you are no doubt aware, we now have Jack Joyce in custody. He gave himself up earlier today. As Mr. Serene has a personal interest in Joyce and the information he might have, he will be interrogating him at the detention center on the island. Unfortunately, this means that Mr. Serene cannot be there for the speech he was scheduled to give at the gala event tonight, so I will have to stand in for him. I have some new security requirements pertaining to that, but I will discuss those with specific individuals in person. Furthermore, be aware that in addition to Joyce, we also have Liam Burke held at the detention center. Despite his long service to Monarch, Burke is now to be considered hostile, and has already done quite a bit of damage to us. I shouldn't have to say this, but just to be absolutely clear, any orders given by him should be ignored. Please ensure that Joyce is ready for Mr. Serene. Also, please bear in mind that Joyce is Chronon active and extremely dangerous. He has given himself up voluntarily, so it's entirely possible he doesn't intend to cause trouble. But let's make sure we're prepared if he does. We don't know his motivations, and I would not put it past him to use his surrender as a means to exact a hidden agenda. Martin Hatch. Seems to me that Hatch is using Serene's optimism as a means of getting his own plans off the ground. There it is. Is there a ladder here? No. Oh, it's actually a window, not a space. My bad. Any incriminating evidence in here? No? That makes it the only one, then. Who has a dual monitor set up at their office computer? Get to Cauldron Lake, yeah. keep staring at? Oh, of course. Lore. Okay, I'm assuming that's one of the songs by Old Gods of Asgard, the retired band you meet in that game. Thor and Odin, I don't remember what their surname was. I don't remember that song at all. I remember the song with the witch's cabin key, and I remember Balance Slays the Demon from Alan Wake's American Nightmare. I don't remember anything about that. From Martin Hatch to Monarch Team Leads, the purpose of the gala. Greetings! It has been brought to my attention that there is some confusion as to the reason for the upcoming evening gala on Gull Island. I understand that some feel that such a celebration is frivolous, even misguided, in the aftermath of last night's events at Riverport University, and the now present steadily advancing fracture in time. These concerns are understandable, but they are missing the bigger picture. Monarch Solutions is now entering a phase in which its true purpose will be fulfilled. We have finally arrived at the moment for which we have spent years preparing. The purpose of this event is twofold. First of all, for those selected to be a part of the Lifeboat Project as scientists, technicians, support personnel, or in some other role, it will be important to see, and this is from 10:39 a.m., long before I surrendered, it will be important to see and hear Paul Serene. Continued confidence in the survival program is vital for the continued survival of Monarch and ultimately the human race itself. This is particularly important given recent events. We need to present a desirable and reassuring counterpoint to the sacrifices we've had to make. Naturally, not everybody at the party will be among the chosen few, so a certain degree of informational hygiene will be required. I trust you will ensure that those reporting to you are informed precisely to the degree necessary. Secondly, for all our autonomy and vast resources, Monarch is not functionally independent from the rest of society. In order for our plans to succeed, we will need the support and cooperation of the authorities and numerous business partners, even though they don't know our true goals. A demonstration of power and confidence, as well as certain judicious investments of currency and influence, will go a long way towards securing that support. Fair enough. Our PR blitz has been working well. Oh! As soon as I finished this, I was going to mention, hey, it's weird that nothing in this chapter has mentioned that I took the PR option instead of the hardline option. So I figured it was just... I figured they were, carefully wording everything so that they only refer to the most recent choice you made, but I guess not. Our PR blitz has been working well, but in order to maintain momentum, we must maintain an amicable relationship with Riverport's leadership. Our entire approach is based on the idea of Monarch stepping in to assist the authorities and being welcomed by citizens and city administration alike. Should the latter suddenly declare Monarch's help unwanted or unsanctioned, our entire strategy could collapse in just a few hours. That would be disastrous to our plans. In conclusion, this is a tremendously important event for the future of Monarch Solutions and for the future itself. If there are any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me, Martin Hatch. Fucking two-faced bastard. I mean, I'm no friend of Monarch and Serene, but... Alright, fine. Dr. Sophia Amaral's office. I really hope that's abstract art, not like a representation of the end of time.
The Amaral had tried to warn Paul. The end of time was approaching quickly, less than 24 hours away.
Mr. Serene believed it would take years to run its course. Admittedly, he was wrong.
This has not been the most action-packed episode. I apologize for that. To Sophia Amaral from Paul Serene, date February 24th, 2013, 6:35 a.m. Subject, Dream Journal 1. Sophia, as promised in our latest session, I'm now going to transcribe what I recall from my dreams. I still have doubts that this exercise will help alleviate my symptoms, but I'm willing to explore the idea further, if you truly believe in its merit. For someone who is not a medical doctor, let alone a mental health professional, you seem to take a great interest in my thoughts. Not that I don't appreciate it. Here's my first attempt. Roll that in for nice framing. There we go. I recall a haunting image of 7 red doors. Each door had a wrought iron handle that was dripping liquid metal onto the ground, creating a pool in the middle of the room. I looked down into the aqueous metallic glow at my feet to see my own glimmering reflection, revealing that I had aged half a lifetime. Startled, I looked back up to discover that only one door remained. Jack Joyce stood in front of it. The heat in the room was overwhelming. Jack was sweating profusely, his skin red and peeling open. He begged me to take him back home, but there was no door leading home. I opened the only door left and entered, discovering that we were back in the same room we had just exited. He refused to come to terms with this, and opened the door again. I followed him, over and over, as he desperately opened the doors, forever leading us back to where we started. The heat grew, and he howled in pain, begging to know why I made the other doors disappear, why there was only one path. He begged me to bring the other doors back. He begged me to take him home. The iron pool burst into flames. Jack screamed in agony. I grabbed him, told him that we needed to learn to endure the heat, to embrace the flame. I knew it would come to pass eventually, but the only way to survive it was to accept its inevitability. My body began swaying rapidly, dancing to the movement of the flames around me until my bones faded out of existence, and I surrendered to the fire until we were one and the same. I was no longer one being in one place in time. My life force was spread evenly across the flames, until I was no longer an entity in one body, but a grander shifting entity. Or an individual in one body, yes. I could feel Jack being consumed within my essence. I felt a power within the heat, a clarity of intent. I forgot about my desire to ever return from the flames, because the body that once desired to return was lost forever. I became the very thing that I entered, and it became me, a cyclical fury chasing itself. Ouroboros. The Ouroboros is the symbol of a snake biting its own tail, you've probably seen, that represents infinity. I woke up in a cold sweat. I quickly wrote down words that poisoned my mind in that moment. Delmore Schwartz was right. Time is the fire. And not a very subtle metaphor, that one. From Sophia Amaral to Paul Serene, forward, Dream Journal 1, September 8th, 2016. I don't know why I said it that way. God damn it, it's contagious. 7:05 p.m. With Jack Joyce in our custody. September 8th. The fucking thing didn't start until October 9th. Maybe that's a typo. Let's just assume that's wrong. With Jack Joyce in our custody, I thought it relevant to forward you a message you sent me years ago. Do not underestimate the significance he holds in your life. I understand your concern that he is reluctant to accept the inevitability of what is coming. However, when he sees the whole picture, he'll have no choice but to believe. We all had our doubts once. You showed us the light. Give him time. P.S. Don't kill his brother, you moron. For just a second there, I thought that magazine was, what was it? One of the collectibles in, I don't know, one of the Alan Wake sections, whether it was the main game, the DLC, or the sequel, was copies of an Xbox 360 game based on Night Springs, the TV show Alan used to write for. Right, that's what I need to interact with to move the plot along, so let's look at everything else first. Projected fracture progression. We've looked at the preliminary data on the frequency and severity of the stutters and crunched the numbers, and the results are alarming, he said cheerily. Our original projection, which gave us years until the fracture reached the point where time breaks down completely, does not match up with the progression of stutters we are experiencing. Put simply, the stutters are happening more and more frequently, clearly indicating that the Mayer-Joyce field is breaking down much faster than we thought. Taking the rate of acceleration, we can hypothesize we might have as little as 24 hours until we reach the end of time, or the point at which time stops and no longer starts up again. Huh. We do not know why the original projection was wrong, and why that data, which we do consider reliable, coming as it does from Mr. Serene, seems to entirely contradict our current findings. Regardless, the main issue seems clear. In order to achieve Monarch Solutions' stated goals, the lifeboat protocol should be activated ASAP. Yeah, I can see the problem there. I feel like I should note, I'm not playing this game on maximum settings, graphically anyway. In order to achieve a stable frame rate. I wonder if there's a setting you could activate that would make it so that when the stutters occur, it doesn't, so obviously affect the textures on stuff, like this poster. If it would move better with the surface of the thing. CFR Briefing by Dr. Sophia Amaral. It's no exaggeration to say that the Chronon Field Regulator, or the football, is at the heart of all of Monarch's technological advances. It has taken on a somewhat mythical quality, given its origins and the vital role it plays in the lifeboat protocol, but in actuality, the football's applications are very practical. That's not to say the football hasn't had a course-altering impact on the work Monarch Solutions does. It's been hugely influential. I'm not even paying attention to this stupid joke. Sorry. Right, okay, fine. It's been hugely influential in the development of both the stutter-proofing technology that allows us to shield large areas from the effects of a zero state, enabling time to keep flowing within them even as it stops everywhere else, as well as the smaller, personalized application of the same technology, the portable Chronon harnesses that allow our soldiers and technicians to operate freely within stutters. We think of Dr. Henry Kim as the father of all this technology, and deservedly so, but for all his brilliance, it was his dedication to uncovering the secrets of the CFR that allowed him to make his breakthroughs. Despite Dr. Kim's hard work, the CFR's functionality is still not fully understood, and we have not been able to replicate the device. Having more than one of them would obviously be greatly advantageous to us, but we find ourselves in a precarious position where in order to fully investigate it, we would have to take it apart. Given its immense power, such an undertaking would pose obvious risks. Perhaps even more importantly, there's no guarantee that we would be able to put it back together again. Now I understand. Given that it's vital to the implementation of the lifeboat protocol, it's our policy to leave it intact. They only have one, and they need it to activate the lifeboat. That's why Paul killed Will. What harm is there in trying? He would have to take the countermeasure away and use it for his plan to stop the end of time, which Paul would see, one, as being a complete waste of time, since it couldn't possibly work, and two, might prevent him from activating the lifeboat protocol in time, since he wouldn't have the power source, or at least, the regulator. We do know, however, that the CFR can not only store an immense amount of Chronon particles, it can also tap into the Mayer-Joyce field and, with great precision, manipulate it. It's this unique ability that our own Chronon technology replicates, albeit at far less control and efficiency. It's also what makes the lifeboat protocol a reality. By itself, our stutter-proofing technology is powerful and reliable, but its rate of Chronon particle consumption is high, and it increases at an alarming rate as we widen the volume of space the stutter-proofing covers. This would, in the face of it, make the stutter-proofing a very temporary solution indeed. One that could perhaps buy us some subjective weeks once we enter a permanent zero state, but which would ultimately only delay the inevitable. However, the CFR changes all of that. When the permanent stutter-proofing installed in the lifeboat, indeed the very stutter-proofing that makes the lifeboat in the first place, is directed by the CFR, the system becomes vastly more efficient. Our Chronon particle consumption is reduced to around 1% of what it otherwise would be. Given that Chronon particles are hard to source even at our ground zero installation, and our stockpiles are decidedly limited, this means the CFR makes the difference between the lifeboat being a temporary stopgap solution or a very long-term undertaking that hopefully allows us to eventually find a solution to the end of time. And it's about shifters. Okay, fine. Chronon disrupted wave function subjects, aka shifters. Slide 1. Much of what we know about the shifters is theoretical, based on observations made by... there's a fucking timer. Made by Paul Serene, and the limited experimentation we've been able to conduct on the only subject we've managed to capture. Just a moment. I need to... let's look at it in here. Okay. From the top, slide 1, much of what we know about the shifters is theoretical, based on observations made by Mr. Serene, and the limited experimentation we've been able to conduct on the only subject we've managed to capture. We have managed to capture. They do not seem to have a stable physical presence. Rather, the data we are gathering appears to be fragmented and contradictory, as if there were countless versions of the subject, occupying the same space. Our current theory is that they somehow exist in a persistent state of quantum superposition. Or to put it another way, with reference to the famous Schrodinger's cat thought experiment, the cat is both alive and dead at the same time. I hate that, but I will save that for afterwards. The full mechanics and implications of this exceeds our current understanding, but on a practical level it seems to make them highly resistant to injury. It appears that even if the shifter encounters deadly force, it may kill one of its aspects, but because it exists as multiple iterations of itself, including iterations that were not killed by the force, it doesn't stop. That's interesting. That's actually really neat. Current theory suggests that the only way to stop a shifter is to cause its wave function to collapse from the superposition to a single eigenstate. Okay, in practical terms, the shifter must be affected with deadly force enough times for it to run out of healthy versions of itself. As such, direct confrontation with a shifter should be a last resort. Slide 2, not shown here. Contact with the shifter is extremely dangerous. We know that they are essentially mobile repositories of vast amounts of chronon particles, and that they can only exist in a zero state, an area which has been depleted of chronon particles, typically by a fault in the Mayer-Joyce field that encompasses the universe. Colloquially, we refer to these as stutters in time. We also know that shifters are hostile to any source of chronon particles other than themselves within stutters, so any chronon-active individual within a stutter may find themselves targeted by shifters. It appears that movement in stutters, by which we mean the very movement of particles within the space in which time flows, not merely the movement of an individual, sorry to think that one through, disturbs them, and they respond with considerable aggression. As discussed previously, shifters are extremely resistant to damage. They are also quite physically formidable, but their biggest threat is the distortion field around them. Its exact nature is unknown, but we know it warps the properties of the space surrounding them, exerting great physical stress and unpredictable forces on its surroundings. Again, in practical terms, close proximity to a shifter may be fatal even if no actual physical contact takes place. Slide 3. The stutter-proofing technology Monarch Solutions has advanced offers solid protection against shifters. Time flows normally within a stutter-proofed area, so shifters simply cannot exist within them. Therefore, as long as stutter-proofing remains active, shifters are not a problem. However, stutter-proofing of large outside areas is not feasible given our chronon particle budget, so we have developed other technology to defend against shifters, the chronon dampeners. A chronon dampener works by annihilating free-floating chronon particles within a specified area. As shifters' forms are hypersaturated with chronon particles, they cannot enter an area in which a chronon dampener is active without their wave function collapsing. Therefore, our operatives in the field have a solid portable defense against shifters. Our own technology is shielded against the dampener's effects, so activities in stutters undertaken by our strikers and other operatives are not hindered. However, as an unfortunate side effect, the dampeners have a crippling effect on individuals who are chronon active without the aid of technology. Accordingly, should Mr. Serene be present, you should always make him aware of your intentions before activating a dampener. You may rest assured that the dampener is not powerful enough to do actual physical harm to Mr. Serene, whose system constantly produces new chronon particles to replace the ones that are lost, but as the dampener's effects are unpleasant and enervating, Such an encounter is likely to lead to an awkward conversation about future career prospects. I was wondering about that, since I walked into one of those fields earlier and I was fine. I figured if it stripped all the chronons away, I would suddenly enter real time, because I would sit through the stutter like everyone else. Right. I can see, Jack's body generates enough chronons to keep himself going, but it doesn't have enough excess chronons for him to access his powers. Interesting. I'm BurningDogFace, and this has been a very lore-heavy episode of Let's Play Quantum Break. I'll see you next time when you interact with that thing and move the plot along. Later!